The 2024 Polyglot Gathering is brought to you by Glossica.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Buongiorno, bonjour, dzień dobry, dobry dzień, and whatever other language you want to teach me, I'm ready for that. Today I would like to talk, maybe not only talk, because I want to make it a little bit workshop too, about writing a diary. But quick question, do you write a diary in a foreign language? Anybody? Ah, there are a few. When did you start? Let's assume, like, you started learning the language, and when did you start writing a diary in that language? After a month? 5 years? 2 days? So who's more on the 2 days side? And okay, and who's more on the 5 years after starting? Okay, because I want to convince you generally that you can be on this first side of the spectrum. So I don't know how it. So yeah? No? 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 Okay, I will use these. That's not a problem for me. Anyways, I will have these 8 steps. We will cover them quite quickly because I want you to do some work here to test the idea. Because my first guinea pigs were my students. This is one of the advantages of being a teacher. You have an idea and then you have someone to, check if it works. So we will look why did I find out that you can do it, some first steps, how to check this diary, how to keep writing, something about, say, writing it further, building your own dictionary. I'll give you some examples and then I'll ask you to do some work. Because I don't want you to be lazy. I'm a teacher, yes, and I will give you homework. So, it all started, actually, because as a Polish teacher and English teacher, well, I want to talk to my students, yes, naturally. So, have you been learning Polish? Yes, so you're not a good example. Have you been learning Polish? No, who hasn't been learning Polish? Okay, how long do you think you need to learn to answer my question, how was your weekend in Polish? Again, are you on the 2 days side or 5 years side? 2 days, who thinks that you need only 2 days? Oh, good, you're polyglots. 5 years to start saying something in Polish? Yes. Even less. Yeah, you're Czech. Okay. Slavic people don't count. And actually polyglots, who is a teacher? That was also, I forgot. Yes, so. Maybe you will find this useful because I did it with my students. And I had, English is very easy. If I don't have an apple because we can't have apples here. But if I had an apple, I don't have an apple, I threw the apple, I did something to the apple, it's always apple, 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 apple. Conjugation is extremely difficult in English. I go, you go, he goes, oh my gosh. We go, you go, they go. Unless you want to use the East Anglian dialect, then he go. That's easier. And Polish, as you know, is just a little bit more difficult than English. Jabłko, jabłko, z jabłkiem o jabłku. And then idę, idziesz, idziemy, idziecie, idą. And if you want to talk about past, you have to remember whether you're a guy or a girl, because byłem is for guys, byłam, I was, is for girls. So I wanted to start talking to my students, but they had to say a sentence. One, they had to know all this grammar, which is impossible, like at the first lesson, yes? Well, or maybe not. But the courses that are produced, like standard courses, the textbooks and everything, they don't take this need into consideration at all. Yeah, but how many times can I ask, what's your name? And where do you come from? I know where you come from, Charlotte. You're on my 5th lesson of Polish. Where do you come from again? Have you changed this? No. How many times can I ask this? I cannot. But I can ask about something, like common, like, I don't know, what did you do last weekend or something. So I broke the rules of introducing grammar, not grammar rules. And it turned out that everybody was happy. So the breaking the rules was introducing past tense quite quickly. And this turned out, the writing of a diary, I will show you how, was far better than drilling exercises. You know the drill exercises when you have a verb and you have to conjugate it and again and again and again. And it's so fascinating, yes? 100 times the same verb. Oh yes, I'll conjugate it once more. And then the declension. Oh, can you feel the vibe of declension, you know? Like Bad Bunny is nobody, you know? Like. Then, I remember one, this is not, you know, paid commercial here, but I remember one italki commercial, and they said, like, there was this person learning this useless vocabulary items, and they said, like, come to italki so you will learn useful things. I hope it works. I teach on italki, so with me you will get these things. But with the diary, with this idea, you will learn the things that you actually need. Because let's imagine, okay, Charlotte, I know your name, sorry. Yeah, Charlotte works with, you know, one of the apps you talk, maybe you've heard of it. So she does some things regularly at her work, yes? But if we had a farmer here, this person would do something totally different, or would be like a gardening fan. And that person would need a totally different vocabulary for their like very basic start, because what did you do at the weekend? Yes, well, I did something with these plants, but I don't know how to describe it. This person needs it. Charlotte, I don't know if you're a gardening fan, but you probably don't, yes? But you need something with you talk. So this is a student-oriented vocabulary that gives you regular repetition. And in the end, because the idea of writing a diary is writing it daily. So step by step, you're writing an easy reader. Go back to your notes from 3 weeks ago, and you have 21 days of super short but super easy texts that you can understand. I don't know if, like, I feel there's echo all the time, or is it just me? Okay. Okay, so how can we start writing a diary from day one? And this is what I do with my students, so I will show you. And if you want to start a new language, you can also try this method. So I give them pictures. I don't give them English translations. This is just for here, yes, to make it useful. Because as a teacher, I can explain these things. Yes, if they don't understand kino, for example, because they don't get it from the picture, I can show it. I love, you know, like being crazy, like online, offline, or whatever, yes? So I show them in the pictures, and it's a very limited number of vocabulary items. And where were you yesterday? Or where were you at the weekend? Weekend is a good word, it's a very international word. So gdzie byłeś w weekend? Oh, they understand, yes? And they can say w muzeum. Actually, I don't even give the first line where there's a nominative case, I just give them w. And they learn locative case without knowing it. Now, locative case in Polish, if you open a Polish textbook, that more standard one, you will have like a one-page locative singular, endings, alterations, and it's like, oh, Latin was easy. So this is something like this, yes? So no, I just don't care about it. I give a few places like this. So based on who we are, like everybody was on a train, yes, byłem w pociągu, and everyone can put it on their diary. Or w samolocie, on a plane, because this is relevant to you, yes? And you remember only the one that's relevant. Those who came here by car don't need to remember neither of them. So what I give them is this locative version plus I was. So byłem for guys, byłam for girls, for women, and that's all. That's all they need to do at the beginning. And usually I have like one lesson a week. There's like standard. So for a week, they write a date with numbers, so they don't have to worry about how to, you know, call days or something. And they write sentences like in chronological order during the day. Byłem w domu. I was at home. Byłem w pracy. I was at work. Byłem w biurze. Well, then they went shopping. Byłem w sklepie. Like, you know, you don't have to be very precise. Which shop, doesn't matter. Did you buy fancy clothes or did you just buy some groceries? Who cares? You were there, you did it. It's a first step. And now, again, remember these drilling exercises which are boring. But if you write every day for 1 minute, Elisa Poleza was talking yesterday about procrastination. And this is a little simple thing you can do. Like you can just do it, stop thinking 5 seconds, you know, like, okay, let's write it, let's do it, and you're done. You have, and before the lunch break, we talked about positive feedback loop. At this talk, I forgot the name of the guy who was presenting it. But this is positive. I have something. I have a result, physical, tangible. I can touch it, I can read it, I can throw it out, I can publish it online, whatever. So I have something. And I have something about myself. Because, as I said, if I don't do gardening and I don't have a garden, so I wasn't in the garden, I will not write about the garden, and I don't learn the word, but I'm A0 level, so I don't need this word. But if I am a gardener and I am in a garden every day, this is like my word. And Charlotte was talking about idiolects, and I think this can work as like building your idiolect in the foreign language from day one, because you write about yourself. It's very personal. Not that personal that you can't publish it, unless you're afraid that someone will come to your house while you're in the garden. But you can do it, you can publish, and it's yours. It's your vocabulary. It's not a textbook, because I love in textbooks, you know, lesson 3, for example, food. 50 food items. Among them, 5 different types of fish. And I know 3 of them, and I know I can eat them. And then I have an exercise when I have to match the name of the fish, that I barely know in Polish anyway, with the picture of that fish, and I have to recognize which one is which. And it's like, but it's not on the plate. I don't know which one is which. Yes? So but that's a useless vocabulary for me, especially at this level, because later, yes, I want to read literature, I want to do something more sophisticated, or I want to talk with a fish lover or a garden lover, yes, so I will need these words, but I'm starting. Right now, I need my vocabulary, so this is it. Later, and this is an example that I made. Yeah, byłem w domu, byłem w parku, byłem w szkole. In this order. Why? Because I have a dog, and I was in the park on a walk with my dog in the morning. And then I went to school. I'm a teacher, so I'm at school all the time. Maybe not all the time, but very often. Byłem w domu, byłem w parku, byłem w domu, byłem w klubie. Well, obviously, it sounds like weekend. 1st of May, yeah, it was the day of work. So, why not? Again, maybe I can repeat it, yes? As you can see, byłem w domu, byłem w parku, then I returned home, so byłem w domu. I can't write things that I did at home at that time, but I wrote then byłem w klubie. If you want to make it a little bit more interesting, you can add names of the days. How to get these things? You can build your own dictionary, and I will talk about it later, how to get the vocabulary items. Then you can add a little bit more details. Just add było zimno, so the weather, it was cold. Było ciepło i słonecznie. Then you can add chronology, in the sense like then or later, potem. And it starts to become, you know, like a little bit more natural. Byłem w domu, potem byłem w pracy. I was at home, later I was at work. And imagine that what I do with my students is I add like 1 step more every lesson, so every week. So for a week they practice one thing, then they add another thing and another. And you know, with the weather, like we all talk about the weather. Oh, unless we're British, then we just live with the weather, yes? No, because other people just talk, yes? And they like breathe the weather and complain about the rain. But this is something that we can at least all agree, yes? It was raining, yes? Or it was sunny yesterday. Today, no. Then you can add emotions, the very basic emotions. And the emotions are good because many of these words are international. Zestresowany, you don't need to know Polish to get the idea what it means, yes? And again, you were at work, byłem w pracy, things happened, byłem zestresowany. So this is like the basic. Then you can start adding activities. Very basic. Again, wieczorem, this is chronology, so the part of the day. Wieczorem czytałem książkę. I read a book. Do you read books? A perfect word for you, yes? But if someone doesn't read books, I'm very sorry for you. But maybe you listen to audiobooks, yes? So why you don't need czytałem that much. You need słuchałem audiobooka. And you can add comments, like just because you want to add this. Czytałem książkę, to interesująca książka. There is not even a verb here in Polish. That's a nice thing, yes? This interesting book. And it's not that this interesting book is something. It means this is interesting book. So you build it like this, and you start building your dictionary, building your vocabulary. How to get it? Because this is like always a problem. I don't know the language. How can I start with even these simple sentences? The thing is that you can use just a Google Translator, but you have to do one thing more. Ideally, you have like a separate document on your computer or a notebook or something. If you Google Translate, I was at school, byłem w szkole, you write it in your dictionary, and actually I will show you like dictionary I prepared for your task later, and you can have like a page places. And you put this whole sentence that Google tells you. You can also check just the word szkoła to know which one is this. Accept that it changes, don't worry about why. And you have it there. Draw a nice picture. So that you don't have translations, but you have a picture. And then instead of, again, translating it, use your dictionary to put it in your diary then regularly. And you have this form. And after some time, after 3 days, this is what my students said. Yeah, at the beginning I was like checking what's the letter there. But after some time they were like, okay, yeah, I have to write it. Because it's like, like a prayer sometimes. Because you do things so often that if you wake up, brush your teeth and something, then you write, byłem w szkole, byłem w pracy, and your muscle memory begins to like kick in. And then you don't make mistakes in Polish where sh is like a common consonant cluster. So this is it. Okay. How to check these texts, because that's also good. Well, there are a variety of things. I think for us here, it's not a problem. We just go to Polyglot Gathering Telegram and find an appropriate language group and then throw it there and, hi people, tell me something, yes? The only problem is that they would be very encouraging. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, you have just a few mistakes. Also, what are the mistakes? Don't worry about them. But, if you write it in Polish, we'll tell you. Yeah? So, but you can do it yourself also after some time. So after a week, read those texts again. Ask your teacher if you have a teacher. Even if your teacher doesn't do it, yes, you can ask them to check this. It's so short that they would do it. If you are the teacher, you can assign it as a homework. And it's very often more interesting than exercise 5A from page 10. So you can assign it and then get it to check it. And as a teacher, I tell you, checking this, after a week, it's usually super quick. But of course, from time to time, you would get a student and you get an essay. But you can ask a friend who's a native speaker, or you can go to social media, like Telegram, I said, Facebook, whatever. There is a website that I found, journally.com. I know that italki has this option too. You can put the text there. You can naturally try to look for everything. There are, for English it's Grammarly, but if you throw these things into Microsoft Word, you just have to find a spell check. At least some feedback is always available. Then you add new vocabulary, whatever you learn, yes? So you're doing a course. I know that UTalk introduced, because I asked Charlotte about this, UTalk introduces some phrases like what you did on Saturday or something quite quickly. So use this sentence, write it in your dictionary if it's relevant to you. because you can reuse it. If you go to a standard class, yes, you have a language course, or at school, at university, online, like language school, whatever, and you have this little piece of vocabulary item that's yours, put it in your dictionary. Like, forget about the rest. Maybe you can't because you have an exam. But in that, if you learn these 50 vocabulary items about food, these things that you like and eat, or maybe you're allergic to, and you want to repeat that, I didn't have peanuts because you need to learn this word, put it in your dictionary. The rest, forget the different types of fish. And at least I do that because, well, I love eating, but I don't need to know what's there on the plate. You can see that I love eating, man. So this is how I also did it. And you can use, like a very step-by-step approach as I showed here. Yes, okay, you had food on week 1, or week whatever, yes, you choose. You can add clothes. You can ask yourself how to say that I was wearing. Because for example, for you, clothes are more important. Or you just want to learn, yeah? So like for the 1 or 2 weeks, you're just writing in your dictionary, I was wearing a shirt, or a blue shirt. Or you have 5 colors of shirts, yes? And like for Mondays, so you just put it. I was wearing trousers. Or I wasn't wearing trousers. Oh, whoops. Yeah? But if you're laughing, actually, and you put something that's funny, you might find out that this is what you will remember, because it's yours. I wasn't wearing a trousers. Well, obviously you were wearing a dress because you went to a ball, yeah, for example, and this is your style. But if you write it, like, you can smile to yourself and then like add this, I was wearing an elegant dress, but you're working with your personal experience. This is different from many other exercises, and as I said, my students found it very useful because after some time when I asked them, how was your week, how was your weekend, they could like go through all this list, and I got a detailed report on places, food, clothes they were wearing, etc. Okay, so this is, wrong way. Okay, you can get more creative when you get more confident. If you read a book, I actually was today I bought some Czech books, I was checking them out. And I found a few sentences, because I also write my Czech diary. I found a few sentences. Oh, I can use this sentence. I just have to throw out this part, but like I can put it in. Point B is very important. It's illegal, they say, but cheat, plagiarize, and copy. If you have on your app an interesting sentence, put it in your dictionary, copy it. You don't have to think about it very much at the beginning. Yes? This is like you're making it automatic, because you don't have to understand how the locative is formed. You know that this word more or less means in this place. Then you can start learning syntax, which is a little bit more important, because locative as a phrase is a phrase. The syntax, I mean, you can start adding and. I was at school and I was stressed. Or I was at school and my students were stressed. Then, it's a little bit later, you can start using idioms. And this is, again, your idiolect, because you like that idiom. You like the idiom to, I don't know, to be snowed under, like when you have a lot of work, yes? Or my favorite idiom, I think nobody uses it, to burn the midnight oil. I remember this idiom, and that it was followed by a wonderful picture in a textbook for English, like exercises from 1980-something, which was photocopied for us in the 90s. And I still like have this nice feeling towards this idiom. I don't know, Charlotte, does anybody still use it? Not very much, huh? But I love it, yeah? And when I can use it, I would do it, yeah? And then when you start making your dictionary like this, I would suggest, organize it by topic. It's easier to go, not alphabetical. Phrases like w kinie, so at the cinema rather than kino. Be very selective. Do only what you need. Because if you're not into something, don't put it. Use Google Translate here and only here, so to create this dictionary. And don't use it when you write. Browse through your dictionary, reorganize it. You will remember more. And this is my chess key. Mój czeski denik. Było słoneczno, rano jsem šel do parku na procházku se psem, potom jsem navštívil své rodiče, pili jsme kávu. Večer jsem byl doma a četl jsem knihu. Actually, I do these things quite often. But even if I put, for example, navštívil své rodiče, and even if you don't do it very often, but you were like, I don't know, very creative, you really want it, don't worry, you will not, if you don't use it, you will not remember it, but it also means that it's not very important in your life, the phrase. I'm not talking about parents, but the phrase, yes? Maybe like you do it. And you see, sometimes I had a meeting, potom jsem měl schůzku. I'm not very consequent sometimes to myself, but this is like when I use the phrase for the very first time. I want to see it. I also add pictures or emoticons just to remember, because then I can use this instead of my dictionary. How to say that it was sunny, or how to say that I took a bus. There is a little picture. I can find it in context in the text. And those bolded places are places that were corrected by my teacher. Because, for example, in Czech, you have to say potom jsem navštívil, and not potom navštívil jsem. Just a word order and things like this. Okay, and these are examples from my students in Polish. Rano byłem w domu. Nie wiem, czy zjadłem śniadanie. So, very nice. I don't know if I had breakfast. Byłem w szkole, byłem w sklepie, byłem w domu, potem byłem w domu. W południe zjadłem obiad, chleb i ser. So I liked this because the student actually learned two words, bread and cheese. Didn't know how to put it like in a full sentence. So I had lunch, full stop. And like a comment, bread and cheese, full stop. But actually this is also useful because this is his or her, I don't remember, like normal lunch. Of course, we don't have like maybe obiad should be bigger than just this, but well, let's be tolerant. Another example, and you can see a little bit different idea, but they wrote names of the days, where they were, plus weather, padało at the end. O, było słonecznie ciepło, byłem w supermarkecie i w parku, so they add e, and. And you have a lot of these examples, a little bit more, I don't know, longer. And they, as you can see with the second or first one, yeah, there is czytałem książkę, czytałem gazetę, but the rest is very simple because they add only one thing. They don't overburden themselves with a list of vocabulary items that's impossible to remember. Okay. A long one, but we don't have so much time. So, generally, in writing your diction, choose your language. Choose a few days right now. I prepared, and this is the website where you can download a PDF for Polish, but if you want to choose another language, just use Google Translate. And try to follow these steps. So first, like for 2 or 3 days, add the places. Then, to this, add weather. And then, yeah, it would be, QR code would be better now. But I was born in the 80s, so, and then one activity, then you can add later. You can all do it like in 5 minutes, actually. So I would encourage you to do it, and if there's anybody brave enough to read it out loud, if we meet in a pub, I can buy you a beer. That will be your prize. So try it out and see. You can use Polish. If you don't speak Polish, you can also try. And you can also then use like Forvo or even Google Translate to listen to pronunciation. So that's also like making things easier. If you want, it can be Polish, but if you can decide to start learning Uzbek today. The dictionary here is for Polish, so it's English-Polish, yes? So this is for my students. But I wonder how would you feel like just experimenting with it, yes, right now? Like write things. I would say, yes, for example, yesterday, byłem w mieszkaniu, in a flat. Airbnb, but let's use a Polish word. Byłem w mieszkaniu. Byłem zmęczony. Obviously, if you sleep 5 hours, yes, because you are on such a meeting, people take you somewhere and you have to speak languages, okay? Byłem zmęczony from the very morning. Potem byłem w sklepie. Well, if I can't say that I bought my breakfast, byłem w sklepie, yes, just. Yes, it's in my head, the rest is in my head. Było słonecznie, było ciepło. Potem byłem na uniwersytecie. Well, this is university. Mogę napisać, I can write, byłem na Polyglot gathering. Było interesująco. Potem byłem w pubie. Było bardzo interesująco. Było bardzo Polyglot gathering. Potem byłem w domu. Byłem bardzo zmęczony. So it's my day. Yes? And I used super simple phrases. And naturally, later, you can, if you're like more advanced, you can start building around it. And with my students, I see this benefit that, because they have this basics, like skeleton of the bones, which they can build around something, they can improve. And they feel more confident. And again, if you are asked to write a diary, like with a normal concept, where you would say, oh, that day began wonderfully. It was, the sun was shining, the birds were singing, and the whole world was smiling to me. And now, you're a fan of Charles Dickens or something, and you would just add some more 19th century words around it in your mother tongue, and then you have to do it in foreign language, you're like stuck. But here you have like a step-by-step approach. Is there anybody who would like to share their dictionary already? Anyone? In any language, don't worry, yes. You can even try to do it like in a language that you know, yes, because you want to see how this works. And I think like for teachers, this can be very useful too, yes? Because if you know how you can do it, you can at least suggest it to your students. And I always, of course, tell my students that they don't have to share everything. It would be good if they share the real things, don't make things up, because that's the point. If you are not meeting a UFO every day, don't write that you have met them, yes? Because that at the very beginning. Later, it's creative writing, no problem. But this is something you can suggest them. And of course, if they choose not to show it to you because it was so private, then actually good. Because it means they wrote their emotions and they're like very personal things in the language they're learning and not in the language, their first language. So they like made one step further in acquiring language. They say that talking about emotions in a foreign language is one of the most difficult things because, well, nothing sounds as good as the word that starts with K and ends in rwa in Polish. And there's no English equivalent for that. So the moment you can write in your dictionary that you are a little bit, that's awesome. Even though you don't have to show it to everybody and do it publicly. So any volunteers? Because I want to have, we have 10 minutes more and some Q&A maybe in place. 10 minutes according to this clock here. Yeah? Maybe, because no one can hear you, sorry. Or do you want a microphone? Mm-hmm. So be brave enough and come to... So, okay, so the question is how I would give feedback to my students when they write it. So, at the beginning it will be very simple. They wrote, let's say, like here, they wrote this text. I use Google Docs, so it's very easy to add a comment to this. So I can bold this to put extra attention to it and just write a correct version. This would be like at the beginning, yes? So if the week 1 is places, I would just write the correct version in the comments. Week 2 is adding weather. So if the places are incorrect, and I know the students used it, especially with one-on-one students, that's like easier, yes? I would just like look up, you use this. You have already used this form, check it. And I would like I would use, for example, in Polish, there's 2 letters, JW, jak wyżej, so as mentioned, and that would be a clue. Okay, you have to look it up, recheck it. That's what I would do, yeah? So I can just underline it, especially if it's like, spelling mistake in that moment, and I know somewhere else they used it. I generally, at the beginning, very beginning, I can be very direct. That you should correct it to this form, but later I would just tell them here, something. But, okay, do you want to read it? Because questions will be on the slide. Uh-huh. So Journaly has some extra options for that. Okay, is there anyone who wants to share? Okay, so I'm disappearing from the camera. I'm supposed not to do that. So I'll be back.
Okay. Wczoraj byłam na dyskotece. Było wesoło. Byłam w domu o 2:00 nad ranem. Było ciepło. Dużo tańczyłam.
Perfect.
Tańczyłam.
Very good, thank you. So you see, it's very simple, and we already know what you talked about at the discourse yesterday. Anybody else wants to share?
Talk finish. Okay. Ọjọ́ èwe mi, lánàá ọjọ́rú, mo sùn rádaràda, bóyá ẹ̀rìn àgò. Mo lọ sí yunifásitì àti mo jẹ oúnjẹ àsán rádaràda. Tuntun àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ ni mi, mo lọ ní Sjecha àti rádaràda.
Yes, of course.
Yoruba.
Thank you. Can anybody who understood this give feedback? Was okay, anybody else? We have time for maybe for one more. Okay, but you see, this is a very simple thing, and especially if you start a new language, you have so many tools to start. Yes, I tried ChatGPT, okay, correct me, but ChatGPT unfortunately started like producing nearly literary texts, yes, and I was like, so no. The ChatGPT doesn't understand the concept of A1, A2, and like A0, A, and yeah. So I don't know the prompts then. So and so it always wrote on a far higher level for me because I asked, you are preparing a text for a student, A1 student, and about this and this, and it made, or when it corrected the same, it made it like too complicated. But the less you cheat here, I think, in the sense, you can cheat for yourself to collect the dictionary, but the less you cheat, like do the lifting by the app, the chat, the more time you write it yourself, the better. Okay, so that's all that I wanted to show, the method, my ideas, thank you. And we have some time for the questions. Oh. So you always start with the past tense for the sake of diary. What if students want to learn to talk about what they want to do now first? I just give them those few phrases. You know, and they like I can give them 5 pictures of places, maybe 7. I usually know them at least a little bit from like 5-minute first encounter. I check their italki profile or something if they write something there, and I do other things too. It's not that this is the only thing. So don't confuse it. It's not the one and only method to learn the language. Yes, it's not the secret to being a polyglot and you don't have to do anything else. It's just one of the exercises, ways to practice. So lesson 2, yes, first lesson we will just introduce it to Polish with some TPR, so total physical response or something. Then I would add this and I would tell them, okay, do it for the week. So actually to introduce this, without the rest, they don't have to know like all the details that I explained to you today. They have those 5 places, 7 places, w domu, w pracy, so at home, at work, with the pictures. Especially if I know if the student is a dentist, I would put w pracy at work, the place where they work, yes, not a random office. And they write it. So you need like 5, 10, maximum 15 minutes to introduce it. And then you go for it. And when they learn how to write it, like weekly, then you can explain more and more on how to get the other ideas. So it's not only this past tense. It's not the full past tense anyway. Are written diaries better than typed ones? If so, I assume it's like that, as this is what the research shows, how to convince your students to do that. I was born in the 80s and I really love handwriting. But I don't stop students. I mean, if you want, do whatever. If you feel like you want to do it on your phone, do it on your phone. If you want to do it handwritten, do it. If you want me to check it, just send a photo of your handwritten diary. It's really, not that important at the beginning. Because, we are here, the crème de la crème of language learners. But I teach people who love languages because they know their own language, English on B1 level, and they have a Polish girlfriend and they need to speak some Polish with the in-laws. So, one more, because we have, if you learn several languages at the same time, do you suggest to do it for each language depending on your level, to focus on one? It's up to you. I mean, if you can, do it in 2. You can do one diary in the morning, the other in the evening. Or if you think that, okay, I'm enough advanced in that, I don't have to write this basic diary, like, choose it. You have to find your own way. And when do you start introducing new grammar? Like this, from the very beginning. But in the very different way. Because I don't introduce the full grammar, just a little bit. And when they have enough examples, I can tell them, okay, this is this case and it's called miejscownik. You don't need to remember the name, but like this. And they have, this is past tense. How often should I review my past diaries so that I won't forget what I have learned? You don't have to review it very often because you write it, and do it as often as you can. Once a week. Why not? Why don't read it back? Could we have these slides? Yes, of course, just come to me and I will send it to you. Very inspiring method, thank you. Can we read a summary of this method? Someone, yes, come to me. 44. What should I do when my days are literally the same? As for, yes, write the same thing. This is the question, yes. Because you don't want to use tons of different forms if you do it and then add. One day you wrote an email, another day you had a coffee, and another day you had lunch. Yes, you don't have to write everything every day. Brush your teeth every day. Don't forget it to put in your diary. Okay, thank you very much. We ran out of time. Thank you for coming here.